Hope that you've been listening to us for quite some time. If not, we are all about teaching women how to level up.
Right.
Money, investments, budgeting, leveling up your corporate career.
Yep. Asking for more money and getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And drinking wine. Having good friends.
Yes. So what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about what our parents taught us about money.
And what they didn't teach us.
Facts.
So
Where do you want to start?
I feel like I didn't learn a lot. My father was good with money. He taught me the importance of saving, but he didn't teach me how. I knew it was important, but I didn't know how to do it.
So did he teach you not to spend? Like you just put it in the bank or what?
I knew he was good with money, but I didn't know how. Like, our parents, like, we just watched them. They didn't teach us. I feel like we just watched them and we picked up on good and bad habits. My father actually owned real estate, but he didn't teach me how. I knew nothing about it. But he definitely had 2 investment properties.
While you were growing up?
No. I was, I guess it was while I was growing up.
Okay.
Late teens.
But he didn't teach you that having investment properties was necessary?
No, we didn't have those conversations until he owned real estate. It was a rental passive income. And I came to him like, I want to start flipping houses. He didn't know nothing about that. Right?
How old were you?
5 years ago.
Okay.
Old as fuck.
He's like, oh, by the way, I should show my daughter how to do this.
Late. So I came to him like, I want to flip houses. And we started having conversations then, but so I was 30.
Wow.
Having money conversations with my parents.
Yeah.
Prior to that, no. Even when I went away to school, the whole student loan things, how to take those out, guidance, and different that, figured it out.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Like when I was going to school, I remember going to Tri-C Community College, and when you go to Tri-C, the bill for Tri-C or community college is so low. So the bill was like probably less than $1,000 for your classes or $2,000, but they gave you this grant. I'm sorry, not grant. They gave you a loan.
They gave you a loan. They gave you a
grant
grant
was like $10,000. You know, whatever the cap was, it was like $10,000. So they took out the 2 and they asked you, do you want the rest or do you want to give it back? And at that age, you're like, give what back? Give $8,000, $7,000 back? Hell no.
I want it all.
I want this money. And I remember taking that money and just, I have no idea what I did with it. I think I bought a computer at some point. A Dell. Remember Dell's was here? I think I bought a Dell laptop.
We blew it. We ran up that student loan debt. Half of it, we blew.
Yeah, but can you imagine like we had that kind of money year over year?
Actually, do you have a degree?
Yeah.
What is it in?
In organizational psychology.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But even the same thing, I remember working.
Fitting.
Yeah. I remember working in my first corporate America job where we worked together and getting bonus checks that were $4,000 to $5,000 like a month. Like checks that were $2,000 to $4,000 a month.
Let me think.
And I think I was spending that money too.
We wasn't investing it for sure.
No,
what was I doing with that money? Oh, I was saving it though.
I think I did. I used some of it for down payment and furnished, of course, my first place. But you bought cars, things like that. But
I was saving that money, and then that's when I opened up that boutique.
But I definitely didn't buy anything that pays me back.
No, I've always had an entrepreneur spirit. Like I used that money. I was saving that money. I started like 2 businesses. I went from that to something else before I got into real estate. But trial and error. No one taught me what to do. No one gave me the blueprint.
No. I don't even think I mentioned to my parents that we were getting that much money back. I think it was like almost a shame thing to tell your parents you had money too. Like you didn't want them
I feel
asking for you to do something for them or something. It was weird.
At that age, we were definitely making more than the average person. That first of all, here we go back to this. Only 6% of Americans make $100,000 a year. So majority of us are broke and living paycheck to paycheck. Those are just the facts. So you're living off $2,000 a month, and that's a good income. Good income say you're living off $2,000 a month. So we were making more than that, right? Yeah. But we didn't even know what to do with it. We were blowing it on whatever.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know what I don't even know what we did with it.
I'm trying to think.
Think about that. You had student loan refunds. You had bonus checks. You had tax refunds. And all that
but
money.
I went to Tri-C for like 6 months, and I went to Cleveland State.
I had the longest 10-year degree ever.
Had I known better, I would have been at Tri-C. There was really no reason for me to not go to Tri-C 2 years. Yeah. For what? Yeah, that didn't make no sense. Why was I going to Cleveland State paying $8,000 versus $8 refund?
I was in school forever because school wasn't. Again, I think I had a family that taught us to work. So at a very young age, I had a corporate job. I made more than all my friends in college. I didn't see the benefit of going to college because I made more than them. I made more than most people coming out of college with degrees like 10, 15 years ago. So I didn't see the point. And then my family didn't stress it. They were just like, we got to work around here because they worked. It was assumed that we would work, and none of my brothers have degrees. I'm the only one that has a degree.
Let's talk about that. I mean, wait a minute. We probably not gonna talk about that because that's off topic. But for me, I'm so not. You gotta get a degree anymore. Like I
don't agree, but I think what's taught in our households is kind of what the rule has become, and what's not taught. It wasn't even
taught in mine. Yeah. I feel like that was something I wanted to do for myself. Neither one of my parents said go to college. Yeah. So, again, we have two separate upbringings. Neither one of my parents said you have to go to college. No, it was like you got to go to fucking work. You going to do that, but you didn't have to go to college. And just by looking at other people, we say, oh, my God, if we go to college, we'll get a good job. Yeah. When we can start businesses, we can buy real estate. Yeah. We can do all these things, and we don't necessarily need a degree. I do feel like if you don't have a plan at that age, you need to go to college. Because college, if it doesn't do anything, it teaches you discipline and it teaches you organization. It teaches you structure that you need.
I've always felt like college creates expansion in certain careers, right? So if you think about if I wanted to go into counseling, I think counseling with a degree, obviously you have to have a degree to be a counselor, but I think the type of careers you go into, college gives you a larger territory that you may or may not be exposed to naturally if you didn't have the degree. So you think about certain degrees that give you just a larger territory. Now we know to be a doctor, lawyer, things you have to have a degree. But certain careers give you just an expansion. You can walk in certain doors easier with the letters behind your name than you can without it. Whether or not you can do it without it is just a matter of will and tenacity.
But we know that you can with experience.
Of course. That's it. So it's a matter of will and tenacity. But I do think college does give you territory.
A little bit. We can agree to disagree on that, though. Yeah. But bottom line is nobody told us to go. Right. Nobody told us about money.
Yeah. I remember having, I think the back in the day, I remember having cell phone bills. You remember going over your minutes? Was that everything for you?
Well, you know you're a little older.
I would go over my minutes and literally have $1,000 cell phone bill. My parents would pay it.
Oh, hell no. Yeah, my phone would have been cut off.
They would pay. They would help me pay it. They would navigate it and help me pay it. But no one ever taught me how to understand the bill. Yeah. How to decrease the minutes. How to manage my bill. They just bailed me out, right? I remember having overdraft fees in my accounts, being a young girl, and they would help me bail out. Now, eventually that stopped. But I never really learned how to prevent the problem. You know what I'm saying? I just got bailed out. Right. Yeah.
So that's why the budgeting is important. Learn your net worth.
Don't bail your kids out.
If you don't know how to budget or if you don't understand your net worth, we talked about that in some previous episodes. Yep. Yep. But, okay, so speed up. We are now self-teaching ourselves about money. Yeah. Late in the game, right? So this is why we're doing this. So however old you are listening to this, 21 all the way to 40. We not some gurus, but
we know some shit.
We know a little bit of shit, right? We know a little bit of shit. So this little bit of shit we know, we're trying to give it to you so you don't have to be late in the game.
So here's a question. What are some myths you learned about money? Or some myths that you were raised around money?
Well, you can start with that. I need to think a little bit. I don't necessarily know.
I was raised with the myth that if you spend it, it always comes back. Like this revolving cycle of like,
oh hell no, that ain't what I was talking.
Yeah, now I think I taught myself that, like living paycheck to paycheck. You know, you get paid every Friday, or every other Friday. So it's like whatever I spend, I get paid again in 2 weeks. So it's like you can live paycheck to paycheck because you believe that the money's gonna refill itself. So you spend $2,000, no worries. In a week or 2 weeks, I get $2,000 more, and so you go to empty just to refill yourself. And I learned that that's not, even though the money comes in, you're not really advancing yourself. You're really just in the hole, digging yourself out, back in the hole, digging yourself back out.
for me, it was more of, I was always financially responsible. I don't know where I picked it up from. Like, I don't know if that's just my personality or my character. I don't know how I gained this over time. Like I was like 15 years old letting grown people borrow money. I was like a loan shark. I'm not lying to you. Like, I swear to God, like, and I only worked there. I've had a job since I was 13. So I had a summer job since I was 13. And I didn't have no bills, so I used to save my money. When I turned 16, I had 2 jobs. And like my older brothers, older siblings, their family members, like people will come to me and borrow money and I would charge them interest.
That's hilarious.
Like, real story. Like, they'd be like, let me borrow $100. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna need $150 back in 2 weeks. And that's what I used to do.
You had to pay their loan.
And it was like, I don't know even how I gained that. Like, I don't know. It was just, so I never really had, I have my own spending habit issues, right? So shopping is, I don't know, we didn't really talk about that, but I have spending issues that I need to work on. But like, as far as like planning, it kind of came like natural, but I still learned so much late. I didn't understand, okay, I have this little money saved, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I'm making more money, what do I do with it? I'm not spending all of it. I have some saved, but I still don't really know what to do with it. So when I went to college, I was like, I'm gonna start a business.
Yeah.
And I spent all my money on the business. And then I don't like this business. So now I'm spending all of my money on another business.
Right.
Then another business, and I don't got no money, right?
Yeah.
Because I done dumped all my money into these businesses. But if I had to go back to like myths with money, I don't really have no conversations about money.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think.
I'm gonna Google something.
Yeah, I can't even think of like one. Money at all. And that's the problem. We're not talking about money. Literally.
Yeah.
And budgeting. Okay, let's even go back to that. Like, credit is something we should be talking about in 9th grade.
Yeah.
I think now, because of the time, the day and age, we are definitely getting more comfortable with having those conversations with the younger generations, but we definitely didn't have those conversations. Nobody said, when you turn 18, you're going to get all these credit card offers. And you don't need to apply for all 10. And you definitely don't need to charge them up.
It's funny because I remember my parents. I do remember my parents. This was my older part. But I remember my parents, like, being really adamant about their credit score. Like, having a good credit score. Even I know family members right now that are like, I have a good credit score, but I don't know if I looked at their portfolio of everything they have, if that means something. You know what I'm saying? Like, the evidence of what that really means, I'm not sure if they're leveraging it to what I know today. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm definitely not the older generation, right?
But we were taught, like, having a good credit score is good, so they worked really hard. So I remember them taking chunks of money and paying down debt because they want a good credit score. But was that the best use of that chunk of money?
I think back in the day, well, I guess that's a myth. I think good credit means that you were in a prestige category.
Got it, yeah.
If you had good credit, that means that you were
made
somebody.
It almost, yeah.
Like, oh, we
Jefferson's moving
we're
on
the
that.
black people with good credit, but not doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
Right? We ain't buying.
So are we chasing a class of, like a class of eliteness? Like having nice cars, having the nice, like we talk about Movado watches or jewelry or Rolexes. Like, if I acquire these things, I've somehow arrived.
Of course, that's the generational curse.
Yeah.
Looking like money and ain't got it.
Yeah. So
everybody looking like it.
So our parents taught us to follow the societal rules, to play by the rules, the myths, the rules, right? Have good credit.
Even when I think about, we talked about our friends, but even when I think about aunties, uncles, even they were late buying assets. How many of your aunties and uncles and your grandmothers like actually owned their homes back in the day?
Mine did. Well, back in the day, I see what you're saying. Like when they were like 20, 30.
You were from Cleveland.
When they were 20, 30. I don't know exactly when they bought their houses, but I do know that, yeah, most of my aunts had. My mother was, so my parents, my adopted parents were actually very progressive. They were young and bought early, but I think part of that was because my mother didn't come from that. She came from, down south where they have nothing. But she
Yeah.
married a guy in a suburb who did. So I think his parents might have been ones that
Right.
owned, and then they taught her, and eventually they bought. So they bought really early in their 20s. And I think my aunts walked in her footsteps. So it's like once you see something, you do it. So once they saw her buy a house, I think they knew it was possible. But I think they did that. I don't think I learned that lesson from them.
I feel like they did stuff with it and pass it down to us.
Yeah, I didn't learn that. I didn't learn. Oh, my aunts bought houses, so I'm gonna buy a house too. I didn't learn
the house that we lived on in Union. She owned that house.
Yeah.
And nobody told me to go on and
Yeah.
you needed to buy a home. That wasn't the message. Like the message we're saying, like you need to own your home. You need to buy. It was just something that I feel like that it came to them like, oh, okay, you should buy this. And like, okay, let's do it. Like, but it wasn't like what we're trying to drill to people. Like, you need to do this. You need to use multiple streams of income. Like, it's a benefit. It's an asset. That wasn't taught.
I'm even thinking about like when I purchased my first car. I think I did it by myself. Like I don't remember nobody going to the lot with me to do that transaction with me. I think I did that, but I think I've done all my car transactions by myself.
Now, my first car, my father bought me. So
that's it. I mean, eating it up itself. I didn't know. I bought my first car. I think I overpaid. I think I got a. That's when you get the first. I think that's another lesson, right? It's like all these lessons we learn because we're not set up right. I think my first car note I had, it was like $400 car note for a Dodge Neon or something. You know what I'm saying? Like you're paying a $600 car note for a Kia, like
right,
because
like,
no one teaches you, and you think you're doing well because they say no money down, and you're paying $600 over 4 years. But what you don't realize is that every time you pay, because your loan's structured a certain type of way, and every time you pay late, the interest and the principal flip. You know, they ratio changes.
I didn't even learn this till I was much older that your payment is tiered off of your credit score, but some companies will still give you the higher tier if you don't know any better. Like I can go into our car lot with a 750 and they can offer me a higher interest rate of payment because that's the first approval they got.
And you like, yes, I'll take the $700 for the Land Rover.
You know, the approvals come in as they run your credit. The higher tiers might be lower to send them the information. They're gonna tell you what as soon as they get it. And if you say yes, like they're like, okay, that late in the game. So you could be getting, you have the best credit, but you don't know.
And you don't know because we're not sitting there. We're so anxious for the vehicle. We're not reading the contracts. I remember my last car, finally getting into luxury. I remember going to the Land Rover dealership and getting my credits. You know how they tell you kind of your credit score range, and I knew I was going in there with over like a 740. And I went and they showed me the Land Rover, the velour, and they were like, the payment's going to be $900. And this, God, just honest truth, I was like, wait a minute. So I got good credit, and you're telling my payments. Mind you, I've never had a luxury vehicle, so I thought that the rules changed a little bit. That, you know, the higher your credit score is, the lower your payment get. I thought that was a thing.
Right.
It's not a thing. So then I realized, like, you mean to tell me people with good credit driving luxury vehicles are riding around in $1,000 notes?
Yeah, depending on
and
the
she said yes. And I said, wait a minute. I assumed that people riding around these luxury vehicles either had, obviously, we knew some people were paying, but I assumed that there were people paying lower notes because their credit was really good. And then they was like, no. Depending on the price of this vehicle, somebody's riding around with $1,200, $1,300 car notes, and I just couldn't believe that was a thing. But
right. So for me, it's like, why would I want a G-Wagon? I can probably go and get one right now.
Whew.
That ain't what I want to spend my money on.
I guess a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But I wonder. I mean, you know, I guess I do understand the luxury comfort that those cars bring, because definitely, you know, the Land Rover massages your back. You get a massage driving in the car.
But it's all about perspective, and it's all about the upbringing. Like, all of that stuff matters. It's, again, our culture makes us feel like we need those things to be successful, right? We need the good credit. Once we get the good credit, we are prestige. Then we go and get the luxury vehicle, pulling up on Kinsman. I was that chick. Mercedes pulling up on Union. Why?
So I felt that way before. I felt that people who drive luxury vehicles think they're better than the person next to them driving the Honda or the Kia. But the Honda or the Kia may have way more net worth than the person in the luxury vehicle.
That. It was just not knowing any better.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a status symbol.
Yeah. So do we need those? So as African Americans, do we need that?
That's what we were.
So we taught.
It's like we feel like we've made it when we can go out and get this expensive ass car note for no reason at all. Like it literally is.
Or the Louis Vuitton bags.
Why is our car note higher than our mortgage? Don't make no sense.
Yeah.
And obviously times have changed, right? The rent is fucking out of the roof. But think about back in the day, how much people were paying for car notes versus their rent.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you have a Range Rover, that's $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. It's nice though. But woo. It's like woo. But again, it's perspective. Like I guess if I was bringing home, $50,000, $60,000, $1,000 would mean nothing.
Making $2,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
You making $2,000 a month and half of it is for the car.
Yeah. Yes, and you're right. It's definitely status. We don't own anything. And then I think in the next time we talk, I think it's important to talk about how this affects us after death. Like I think we always talk about when you die, leave for your kids. And we really don't really know that other side unless we've been on the other side of it. But really, how does all of this look to the people you leave behind? So I think we could talk about that too when we come back next. I'm always trying to wrap up a segment.
I see.
Peace. I gotta go. Shamin, get in this chair. Don't be talking. Don't let me look on live and y'all on here talking at 12 o'clock at night. Okay. Go to sleep, sis. I love you so much.
I'm not sure.
Oh wait. I do want to. Can I take a picture of the picture that we took earlier? Can you stop it?
Go ahead.
How do I do it? Just hit the play button.
Hit the record button.